Why does it feel like you're constantly being watched, even when you're alone with your phone? Why is there this invisible ache when someone else is doing better, laughing louder, living fuller, and you're just there, motionless, comparing, wishing? Why does everyone else's joy feel like a measuring stick held against your silence? Keep watching, because by the end of this, you'll finally understand why that weight never meant you were behind, and why you never needed their eyes to feel real. There's something so quiet about social comparison. It doesn't scream, it creeps. Slowly. A scroll here, a like there, a comment that stings for no real reason. And suddenly, you're not just living your life, and you're watching it through the lens of someone else's, as if their version holds more meaning. You weren't sad a moment ago, you were just fine. But now your smile feels forced. Your clothes feel not enough, your goals feel fake. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. You weren't broken before you saw them. And you're not broken now. Keep watching, because by the end, this mess of feelings will start to make terrifying sense, in a way that finally lets you breathe a little deeper. It's not about ego. It never was. It's about belonging. About tiny parts of you that whisper, "Am I still worthy?" every time someone else seems more loved than you. That pull toward validation isn't vanity. It's survival. We chase being seen because somewhere deep in the nervous system, attention meant safety. Being admired meant not being abandoned. And so we go. More polished, more strategic, more curated. Not to flex, but to stay connected. To not fall behind. To matter. And yet each time someone else is praised, some hidden part of us panics, like there's less air left in the room. There's something strange about validation. How addictive it is, even when we know it's hollow. That tiny flutter when someone taps like. That microsecond of mattering. You think it's just a notification. It isn't. It's a loop your mind has tied to self-worth. Approval, reward, stagnancy, fear. And so we loop. Even when it hurts. And what do you do when you're caught in the loop? Do you stop? No, you optimize. You smile wider, pose better, phrase captions like poetry, because maybe someone, somewhere, will feel drawn enough to tell you you're okay, that you're real, that you have presence, that you're still part of the room. And as you do this, something else begins to die. The natural, the messy, the honest. Because if they only love the bright version of you, what happens when you're dim? Can you risk being raw when polished posts get praise? So you shrink, you perform, and yet deep down it starts to rot. The version of you that's just a little offbeat, the one that doesn't sparkle on command, the one that laughs not for the camera, but for you. That person begins to fade. Not because you want to lose them, but because you're scared they won't be enough. And when that fear settles beneath your skin, comparison evolves. It becomes self-harm in disguise. She's prettier. He's more successful. They're happier, closer, lighter. You don't just admire their lives, but you punish yourself for not having them. Scrolling doesn't feel like leisure. It feels like bleeding slowly, in tiny, invisible cuts. The kind you can't show anyone. The kind you gaslight yourself into ignoring, because how do you explain that watching a stranger's vacation photos made you feel worthless today? But maybe you felt it too. That numbing ache when your post flops. Not because you wanted fame, but because silence feels like rejection. Like the world looked at your offering and quietly turned away. That's what validation loops do. They make every interaction a referendum on your value. Did they reply fast enough? Did they notice what I shared? If they didn't, does that mean I'm fading out of their orbit? Keep watching, because around halfway through, you'll see why this pull toward attention isn't shallow. It's a wound. A deep, unmet need cloaked in polish and filters. Sometimes we wonder why we can't just be happy for others. Why someone else's glow makes us dim our own. We want to be better than that, don't we? But envy isn't cruelty. Not here. It's a scream that says, I want to be chosen too. It's not that we resent them. We just can't stop asking why we haven't been seen like that. Why our laugh wasn't the one someone paused their scroll to watch. And this isn't weakness. This is longing. Pure, aching human longing to be held in someone's attention and remembered. When everyone's life becomes a broadcast, emotions turn into performances. And the scariest part is when you can't tell the difference anymore. Do you feel this? Or do you just want someone to witness it? Is that story you're posting a genuine sharing? Or a cry for relevance? We start living in third-person narratives. What would they think if I wore this? If I captioned it like this? There's no room for quiet joy, for unshareable moments. You start asking, if it wasn't posted, did it even happen? It's not a joke. It's a symptom. We've wired meaning to visibility, and it gets deeper. Because over time, it's not even the attention that matters. It's the fear of absence. The space between posts, the days no one checks in, the subtle slips in frequency from people you thought would always be there. That stillness feels louder than any silence. Because your brain doesn't just observe the gap, it fills it with dread. They're losing interest. You're not interesting enough. They found better. The loop plays, rewinds, plays again. The only way you know how to stop it? Prove them wrong. Post louder, shine harder. Beg for those breadcrumbs of belonging without ever asking out loud. But here's the thing. The loop never ends by completing itself. Because no amount of likes can touch the soft place that still believes love must be earned. That's the real echo hidden beneath comparison. A question. Am I lovable without applause? Do I still exist in someone's heart when I'm not visible? When I'm not performing? That's what we're really trying to answer. Not who's better, but am I enough when I am boring, lost, unsure? And that question, it's terrifying. So we distract from it with curation and competition. But it waits, softly echoing through every pause and attention. Sometimes late at night, when the noise fades and the screens go dark, that's when it hits hardest. That flood of moments you didn't share because they didn't feel safe enough for the timeline. That laugh that was too strange. That night you cried without knowing why. All the pieces of you that don't photograph well. That's the real you. And it misses being touched, not with hearts or fire emojis, but with real, steady presence. The kind that doesn't need you to be interesting. Just you. Remember when you used to exist without tracking it? When joy didn't need captions and connection didn't feel like performance art? Midway through this, let that promise echo again. You are not broken for needing confirmation. And you're not shallow for wanting to be seen, but you deserve to be remembered even when you are not shining. You deserve silence that still feels like love. Every time we compare, a quiet war starts inside, between the part that wants to celebrate them and the part that fears there's no room left. So we shrink what we feel in real life just to stay big in digital space. We downplay our loneliness so others will keep wanting to be around us. We laugh louder in stories than we do in person. We give more than we receive just so we have proof that we matter. Not for pride, for security, for anchoring, for the illusion that if we're needed, we won't be left behind. But you know what begins to hurt after a while? When you feel like your worth must be re-earned every day. When resting equals invisibility. When not reaching out means being forgotten. The loop of what have I done for them lately becomes your only gauge of being wanted by. Until love starts to feel transactional, conditional, like a job you're scared of being fired from. That's what chronic comparison really does. It's not just envy. It rewrites love as a competition for space. And the prize is being remembered. And when you notice that loop running your friendships, it hurts worse. Because now it's not strangers you're comparing yourself to. It's people you love. Friends, lovers, siblings. And no one tells you how guilty that feels, wanting their happiness and hating what it reveals about your own. You see them shine and wonder if that light makes your dimness more obvious. You hate yourself for not being better, then hate yourself again for being jealous. The shame cycle's harder than the envy ever did, but within that storm, there's a tiny voice you have to listen to. The one that whispers, you don't actually want what they have. You just want to feel what you think they feel. And that's the difference that changes everything. We rarely envy their realities. We envy our fantasy of how complete their lives must feel. That's the trap. That's how the loop eats you. It sells you illusions dressed as truths, and we believe them. Not because we're dumb, but because we're lonely. Because the story it tells feels so much safer than admitting all we really want is to feel like we're not disappearing. Validation loops also steal time. Not physical time, emotional time. The hours spent thinking of how to be more liked instead of more yourself. The distance that grows between you and people you could love deeply, but push away because you're too busy calculating your worth. It wrecks you in subtler ways, like never dancing fully because you're waiting to record it. Like hesitating before laughing because you need to angle your face just right. It's not vain, it's survival. But survival shouldn't cost this much joy, and you might be wondering, if the loop is hurting me, why can't I just stop? Because the loop doesn't threaten your image, it threatens your place. That's the root of it. Not fear of being unseen, fear of being unwanted. We'll endure anything just to feel tethered, even if that tether comes with comparison and pain. Even if it means watching others get chosen while you sit still, fingers hovering over the screen, wondering if today will be the day someone sees past the polish. Into you. Let's be honest. Sometimes even the moments when you're celebrated don't feel real. The compliments flood in, and instead of pride, you feel panic. Like you've tricked them. Like they wouldn't like the unlit version of you. That's the undercurrent of a validation loop. No matter how much you get, you never fully trust it. Because if your identity was built to earn affection, how could you believe in love that hasn't been earned? But here too is the quiet moment you've been waiting for. The tender crack in the storm cloud. It isn't a fix, but it's recognition. The loop hurts not because you're weak, but because you are wired for connection. Deeply. Desperately. That part of you isn't shameful. It's human. You want to be adored. You want to be chosen, even on bad days. And it's okay. It's okay to want to feel like you matter in ways that no number can measure. So maybe the question isn't, how do I stop comparing? Maybe the question is, what would I do if I truly believed I was still lovable even while losing? Would you rest more? Share messier truths? Would you risk showing up when you're not at your best? That might be where the loop begins to slow, not with certainty, but with softness. The belief that you don't have to sparkle to be remembered, that your worth isn't a limited resource scrambled over in digital trenches, that your quiet is just as deserving of echo. We'll always look across the room, across the feed, wondering how we measure up. But some nights, just some, let yourself look into your own eyes instead, and remember who you were before they taught you to be watched. Because that version, tender, unseen, real, is still waiting, and they are still worth loving, even in the silence.